Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Uncensored Self Podcast live. I'm excited to be here with you. I have missed you guys and I'm really excited about our conversation today because what I'm going to do is tell you the top 3 realizations that I have had in building a business without doing anything I do not want to do. So if you've been following along on this journey, last week's podcast kind of gives you a whole breakdown of this kind of download I got about 2 weeks ago now, where it was like, no, you're going to build a business without doing anything you do not want to do, and you were going to document your journey. And in the first podcast, I kind of explained down like my marketing brain and what that means and what that is. And so it's just really anchoring me more and more into playing the energy game. And so there were a couple of things that I realized over the past couple of weeks about myself that I thought would be helpful for me to share, of things that I'm seeing and shifts that I'm making, because that's really the point of documenting this journey, right? So proof of concept, right? I want you guys to truly believe that it's possible, but 2, also to teach you the lessons that I'm learning about the way, or the things that even though it feels like I'm doing them one way, I'm noticing that there's a really big opportunity for me to continue to grow in the energy game. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this work, and also why I felt called to do this in this way and share this in this way, is because I don't think there's a rival in this business. I don't think that there's such thing as an expert in universal law, meaning that there's an arrival, right? Like that you're not still unraveling your own stories. And I saw this beautiful, it was maybe a TikTok video or an Instagram, don't remember, where somebody talked about like the consciousness journey is a spiral, right? Like every time you think you've cleared something, it pops back up because it pops up in a different way, or you're a different person at that time, so you handle it a little bit differently. So this journey isn't linear in that like, oh, well, I slayed the money dragon, so now I'm a magnet for money and I'm never going to struggle with money ever again. No, your journey with money is going to continue to expand as you continue to expand. So this is me kind of sharing those messages with you, because I think that we live in a world where very much we have been taught to, again, market ourselves in a way where it's like, look at all the things that I've done versus look at what I'm learning and the journey that I'm on. But I also think that there's a really huge metaphor in this for those of us that are waiting to arrive somewhere to be the best version of ourselves. And there's no such thing as a rival, right? I've said that before and I'll say it again. So the realizations, I'm going to kind of give you a recap and then I'll dig in, right? I realized in some places that I was really still playing the mind game and following some old marketing rules that come from my career that were really interesting. The second realization that I had was that aligned action feels so different. And the more that I anchor into aligned action, the more I see the difference of how much action I've been taking over the years for like effort and force, and even still somewhat recently, right? And then the final realization is that I was still really looking for external validation to tell me that I was on the right track. And I think that's such a big one for all of us to pull apart. So I'm just really excited to dig into this conversation. If you're here live, say hi, ask questions. If you're watching this either on the replay or on the podcast, I'm delighted that you're here. I do want this to be a 2-way dialogue. That's again another reason why I felt really called to document the journey in this way, is because I think the value comes in the conversation, right? The value comes in the questions. The value comes in those like, hey, can you clarify this a little bit moments as we get clearer and clearer on clearer is what does it mean to be an energetic match to the life that I desire? Because that's ultimately what this is all about, right? So what I really want to dig into is this whole idea of I was still playing the mind game. And like I teach an entire lesson inside business therapy. It's actually, I'm going to teach it next week. And I'm really excited to start breaking that down about the whole idea that the rules are made up, right? Like the rules in business, like these are the required things that you have to do to run a business. They're all fucking made up. None of them are required other than like have a product or service that people will buy, exchange money for it, deliver on the product or service, right? But anything outside of the basic fundamentals of business, of how business works or how a career works, everything else is completely made up. They're just somebody else's experience or somebody else's learnings or somebody else's story. And so I thought I had shed a lot of that because I very much came from, if you don't know, I came from a very traditional corporate sales background. I spent 15 years in corporate America in sales. I very much lived by sales systems and the numbers game and the systems and the processes and the dot your I's and cross your T's and all of those different things inside of business. But when I realized that, none of those things were all just kind of permission slips, those things were just structures that I believed in, I started realizing like, ooh, how many of these rules are completely fucking made up and are not at all necessary. They're just, again, programs we've been sold or stories we've been told that are going to get us where we want to go. So where I saw this most in my experience of the last couple of weeks was in like content marketing and timelines, right? So for example, I'm sitting here today, it's Tuesday, and I'm recording this week's podcast. So again, a mind game story, an old story that I had was, okay, we produced the podcast on Monday. I got to get it out on Monday. It's every single Monday. Well, Monday was a holiday and I didn't really feel compelled to take a shower and record this on a Monday when I hope you guys were all out. Well, at least those of you in the States, right, out enjoying your lives. So I decided to do it here on Tuesday, which means it's not going to go live until Monday. And I noticed that like, I felt a little bit of anxiety about that, right? Like, oh, I'm off schedule. What are people going to think if I'm off schedule? Which is going to take us to realization number 3, which is the external validation, but very much this like pressure of content in a certain way, right? So the podcast being one of them, but also noticing that like, oh, did I post enough content today? Am I creating enough content? I'm supposed to post X number of times a day. Did I do that? I didn't do that. Let's create a piece of content. Like still kind of finding myself in that like checking the box type of energy, which I'm very much trying to exit. So those were just some things I realized was I was like, oh, I was telling myself that these were the things that were absolutely positively required to get the result. But again, where's the downfall in that? Where's the break in that? Is the idea that there's a set of rules, right? That the action is actually what's creating the result instead of the energy. So for me, I often tell myself one of my favorite thoughts to think is that my podcast is the best sales tool that I have. People fucking love my podcast. A number of people that tell me that they love my podcast or they listen to my podcast and that's why they chose to work with me, right? Like that's the story that I'm building. And so like, are those people really pissed off that it didn't come out on Monday? No, right? Like that was just a performance mechanism. The same thing with content. Like I also believe that my content is the best selling tool. So whether you find my written content on Facebook or my video content on TikTok or the deep dive content I take inside of my Facebook group that like is a little bit more intimate, right? I tell myself often that that's the way people connect with me. That's how I build really great relationships. So there's no real rules about how often I have to post to do that, right? Those are, again, just made up rules. And the more that I try to be intuitive and just create when I feel called to create or give myself space to create in a certain way and allowing that to be enough, not feeling like I have to hit a certain metric or a certain number in order to create a specific result, right? Being able to say that, hey, these tools work. And if I feel called to create a whole bunch of content today because I'm inspired and I'm excited, great. If I don't, and I only had 1 or 2 good ideas, share those as well. So those are just some of the things that I realized that I was still kind of hooking myself into. And when I would check in and ask myself, like, how does this feel, right? Like, how does it feel to create this piece of content right now? I noticed that there were some times where I really was forcing, right? It was like, I was more checking a box than, hey, I feel like I have something really interesting and compelling to share right now. So again, allowing myself to be more intuitively guided, allowing myself off the hook of like, it doesn't match the system exactly. And so, I don't feel compelled to pull apart the entire, to have some scaffolding, to have a little bit of structure I feel good about. But again, not forcing myself to meet a certain metric or a certain number or a certain whatever, because that's what's creating the results. Because remember, it's not the action that's creating the result. It's the energy. It's the belief, right? And so really anchoring myself into that has been really powerful for me this week and something I just noticed in myself. So a really great kind of reflection question for you, where are you unconsciously following someone else's rules in your business, thinking that you have to, or in your career, right? Even those of you that are maybe in corporate careers, where are you following the rules, thinking that, oh, I have to put in a certain amount of time before I'm able to get that promotion or make the next change or do something different, right? Or I have to take these exact 3 steps in order to sign that client, or I have to behave this way in order for people to want to hire me as their real estate agent, right? Like, where are you allowing or following somebody else's rules in your business or in your career? So it's a really great reflection question for you to sit down and do a little journaling on, and certainly something I'm continuing to unwind. But I'm so glad that I noticed this so quickly, because again, it's allowing me to create more intuitively, right? So my second realization, right? Aligned action feels so different. It feels so different. And I'm probably going to spend a lot of time here because I believe as high achievers that like action is kind of it's where we hide, honestly, right? For me, I hid in action. As long as I was taking action, I was safe, right? Like for me, that was safety, being busy, having something to do all the time, feeling like it was a control thing. Like I'm consciously moving the needle because I'm taking action. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, right? Action being tied in with the rules, realization number 1. And so for me, I would work all day and I'd be like, oh, well, nothing I do is that hard. I sit in an air conditioned house. But like, again, there's a difference between forcing yourself to do things and doing things because they're inspired, because you're excited, because they feel good, because they set your soul on fire, right? And so what I'm noticing is that when I only do what I want to do, I have full days. Like my calendar is full. There's a lot of to-dos on the list, but it doesn't feel like effort. It doesn't feel hard, right? If you are inside of my Facebook group, it's called the Backstage Pass. If you're not, those of you that are listening live, obviously you are. But I've been giving these recaps, not every single day, but I've been giving recaps of my days because, again, I think a lot of what's missing in content creation and in personal development, intentional reality creation, is a lot of people like to tell you things, but they don't like to tell you how to do the things or what they're doing to do the things. So one of my biggest values is like transparency and really sharing with you guys what I do. So the recaps a couple of times a week are for me to show like, hey, this is how I'm spending my time, just to really show you what it looks like for me to do things the way that I want to do them. And so last week I posted, I think it was Thursday, and Thursdays a week I don't have my kids. So Thursdays are always kind of, I start my days earlier because I don't have to get the kids on the bus at 8 o'clock. I don't have to be done at 4 o'clock to get them off the bus. And then I don't have to be, home by 7:30 for shower and bedtime. So I have a lot more freedom in my day on Thursdays. So they tend to be longer days. But for me, they're one of my favorite days of the week because, again, I do them in such an aligned way. But I had mapped out what I did that day. And a woman in the community commented and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm tired just reading that. Like, I'm exhausted just reading what you did today. And in my mind, I was like, holy shit. Like today felt so expansive to me. Like it felt like I barely did anything. And a year ago, I would not have been able to let Thursday be a day because I would have been freaking out about the fact that I wasn't taking enough action. Right. So it's just so interesting the more that I lean into this idea of aligned action. And when you do things that you really enjoy and things that excite you and things that are fun for you and things that stimulate your brain, things that stimulate your creativity and your gifts and your power, that it doesn't feel that way. So you can get through a to-do list of X number of items and not actually feel like there was a lot of effort in it because you weren't forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. You weren't, torturing yourself in the name of hard work or earning or deserving or worthiness in some capacity. And so it really kind of drew me into like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I do that much. Like in my mind, I'm doing a fraction of what I used to do when I was trying to prove and earn and all the things on the calendar are things that really fucking light me up. To me, that feels amazing. Right. To me, that feels so good. And that feels so aligned. It doesn't feel like I worked very hard today. I felt like I did all things that I love today. And that just feels so, so, so different. Right. And the reason also this was so powerful, like this powerful moment of contrast, is because I used to do like what felt like a grind versus doing just like as much or more, but like feeling really energized. And that's why we know when we're on track. That's when we know we're playing, I call it the energy game, right? That's when we know we're really aligned with universal law, with God's source, the universe, whatever you believe it, is when it feels good and when it feels easy. And so you can get so much more done. That's also why your results are results tend to happen faster, because when you're in alignment, right, you're magnetic, things fall into place, all that different stuff. And for so many of us, action isn't the problem, but it's the thing that we keep looking to solve, right? It's actually the misaligned action, the problem, right? The real meaning, to me, this is the real meaning of effortless, right? It's not doing nothing. It's doing only things that you want to do, the things that feel easy. And I think that, again, sometimes we're afraid of, if I'm not constantly grinding and chasing and have these big crazy goals and I'm not moving as fast as I can all of the time. Am I lazy? Am I not ambitious? Right? I shared some content about that. Like I did, my brain absolutely fed me a thought last week that was like, Ryan, you're fucking lazy. I had said, that I wanted to, I'm thinking through kind of my schedule and what I'm building and how I want it to look and like what my ultimate dream schedule is for me. And in my mind, it's not taking more than 3 calls a day on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I don't really take any calls on Mondays. I create content and do things like this, but not having a really full calendar. And then, leaving Fridays open as well, but only really having like no more than, 3 scheduled things on any given day. And my brain instantly was like, Ryan, you're so like, that's so lazy. And I know that that's not true, right? That's just the old programming showing up. That's just the shame, as my client Roberta would call it, right? It's shame, masked as productivity, but it really is just the programming that it's lazy. And also the idea that I'm only working when I'm on calls, like that's bananas, right? Like I'm creating content, I'm editing content, I'm talking to people in the DMs, I'm coaching my clients in the DMs. A lot of my work is done in the DMs, interacting with people, things like that. So it's my work isn't just in calls, right? But it's so interesting what our brain feeds us. I just wanted to share that with you. My brain instantly was like, ooh, lazy, when it's like, no, right? When you are doing things you love, you're more energized and you can actually do more. There is more space. The capacity gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So effortless is not lazy. It's not do nothing. It's do things that bring you joy, that excite you, that light you up in that way, right? So kind of the reflection question I have for you around this one is like, what's something in your business that you've been dreading or putting off because it's misaligned, right? With how you actually want to work, like what are you putting off? What are you dreading? What is that thing that's rolling around in your brain? And like, let's really dig into that, because again, if it were truly aligned, I always say aligned action is action you can't not take, right? Like I can't not create content. I can't not record my thoughts. Like it just, to me, when I think it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I got to write this down. And I voice memo it really quickly to myself. And then it either gets turned into a written piece of content or a short form piece of content or a longer form piece of content like this. But for me, I don't like, this is something I really enjoy doing. So it feels easy and fun. So asking yourself, I don't dread that, but there are in the past things that I have dreaded doing. And there are still some things that I sometimes will put on my radar and then like, no, I don't want to do that. Right. Like my brain will feed me ideas that again are coming from the thinking brain instead of really coming from my intuition. So when you're really tuned in and playing the energy game in a meaningful way, that the effort, like there's a lot of things that get done in any given day, right? Like I have 2 small kids. I run a business. I co-parent. My son plays competitive baseball. My daughter almost always is playing a sport, right? Like my parents live close by. My sister lives close. Like my life is extremely full, but it no longer feels chaotic because everything I do is something that I want to do. So even though the calendar is full, the to-do list is full, the responsibilities are full, I move a lot. It feels so fucking good because they're all things I want to do. That is aligned action. It's not just sitting on your ass, eating bonbons, manifesting money. It's doing things that really fucking excite you. And when you do those things, you're then just naturally attracting things. Things get easier, they get better, they get more fun, opportunities come out of nowhere. People, random conversations, people like, oh, I'm considering working with you. And you're like, fuck, I didn't even know you were paying attention. Right? But that only happens when you're aligned and not efforting, right? And then my third realization, I was still very much looking for external result, like validation. And this is something I really did not think that was still in there. Really did not think that was still in there, but it actually very much around social media and metrics and numbers and expectations. And I don't even think I really realized I was doing it, right? Like I'm still subtly checking like the view counts and the likes and the audience growth and then assigning meaning to it, right? Like, oh, this is working because I'm getting X number of likes or followers, and then making that mean. And then if I'm not getting enough views or likes or followers, that means it's not working. That's what I mean by assigning meaning to something. And one of my favorite things to talk to my clients about all the time is like nothing in life has any meaning except for the meaning you give it. So I can make it mean that, oh, my content sucks because I don't go viral all the time, which is not a thought that serves me. Or I can make it mean that virality is not really important. Like I shared with you guys on last week's podcast, I've helped 25 people in the last 5 months. It's now 27. I signed 2 new clients last week, right? I don't need virality to do that. So it doesn't mean that my content isn't good. It's reaching the right people, right? Like people are joining the Facebook group. It's not hundreds a day, but they're growing, they're coming, they're paying attention. And instead of meaning, oh, because it's not happening faster, I'm doing something wrong. It's, I'm seeing those pops and those wins as signs that I'm on the right track, right? That's what I mean by give it meaning. Like, oh, well, it's not happening fast enough. I must be doing it wrong. Or, oh my gosh, look, it's starting to happen. I'm seeing it. This is so amazing. Like, oh yeah, last week I got 50 new followers on a day, and that doesn't happen to me very often. And I celebrated the shit out of that, right? So it's like you get to see it however you want, right? Like the follower count is the follower count, the likes are the likes, the number of inbound leads are the number of inbound leads, like whatever metric you're counting, what meaning are you giving that? There's not leads coming in every day, but they're coming in every other day. Are you celebrating those leads coming in every other day? Or are you constantly worried about the days that the leads aren't coming in, right? And again, pick whatever external thing you're validating for yourself, right? Like, oh, well, my goal is to sign a client every single day and I haven't signed a client in 3 days. I must suck. But I signed more clients in the past 2 weeks than I had in the previous month. So that is the proof that I'm on track, right? Like you get to give it meaning. But what I was finding myself was I was still letting those outside metrics kind of impact my mood and making me think too much instead of feel my way into what I want to create. And so I was just really surprised to see that was still in there, because again, this idea that like, well, if not enough people like it, or if there's not enough people in here, like not enough people are going to buy, which again, all comes from this energy of lack. It comes from this energy of meaning, which is not true, right? It's not true at all that people, I don't even know 6 or 7 people that I'm in conversation with right now. I have 2 clients up for renewal that I know are going to renew. I'm, talking to, 6 or 7 people about this retreat that I'm doing in Sedona. Like there's so much happening behind the scenes. But what I have a bad habit of doing is I would look up and I'd be like, oh, well, nobody liked this TikTok video. It must suck. And again, latching onto that thought and making that mean something instead of saying like, hey, look at all these opportunities that are coming in. Like, look at all these opportunities that are active right now. Like if I could just be grateful for those activities, those things that are happening, the rest of it's naturally going to happen. And that's what I mean by external validation, right? We're looking at the external things. We're looking at the optics where how does it look instead of what it is, right? My mentor says that so often, right? It doesn't matter how it looks. It matters what it is. So as long as there's these conversations happening, there's people who want to work with me. My client count is growing every single week. Like I'm on the right track, and it has nothing to do with the number of TikTok followers I get. And so I just really noticed that in myself, and I'm still really working on detuning that. The biggest thing that I've done to kind of navigate that or mitigate that is just less time on social media, which is something that I think is healthy across the board, is for me to be, if I'm on social media to post a piece of content, great. Like over the weekend, I like to just scroll because I like the content, right? Like I'm not scrolling, searching for answers or anything like that. Like I like content. I like funny content. I like makeup content. I like manifestation content. I like, baseball mom content, right? Like, so sometimes I watch social media because I enjoy it, but when I find myself on social media looking for inspiration, looking for validation, that's something I'm really trying to mitigate a lot in this. So and also just really looking at the metrics and looking at them as data, right? And asking myself like, okay, well, I didn't get X number of likes or new followers on this piece of content, but did it feel good when I created it? So I've actually found myself going back and rewatching some of my content and being like, no, that message was really good. I really liked that. And to me, that's all that matters, right? Like as long as I like it and it feels good to me, that's alignment, right? I don't need the outside world to tell me that my content is good. I believe it's good. And this is whole concept of like, we go first, right? Like you have to go first. If you're the creator of your reality, you have to like your content if you want other people to like your content, right? You have to think you're fucking amazing and people want to work with you for people to want to work with you. You have to think you're fucking amazing and 110% worthy of that promotion, or nobody else is going to think it. Like you have to go first. So if you're waiting for the outside world to validate you. So again, it was just a really great catch that I noticed about myself. And I did an entire podcast. It's actually episode 2 on the pod, if you go all the way back, where I talked about why isn't it working? But again, around needing proof before choosing belief. And we do that so often because that's how we've been programmed, right? We're like, okay, we know that it's working based on, is the outside stuff changing, right? Is the relationship changing? Is my body changing? Is the bank account changing? Is the business growing? Am I being recognized the way that I want to be recognized? And we're looking for the outside world to tell us we're on track, right? But that again is all external validation versus how do I feel, right? This is why I talk so much with my clients about letting go of outcomes and not needing the outcome to feel good, right? Because again, the only reason you want whatever it is you think that you want in your life right now is because of the way you think it's going to make you feel. And if you can feel that way before it happens, it's going to happen faster. Like that's manifestation in a sentence, right? That's intentional reality creation in a sentence. That's the energy game in a sentence. Feel it first. If it feels fucking amazing to have the business or the career that you want, you need to feel fucking amazing most of the time. And if you don't, then that's why you're not creating what you want. But if you need the outside world to look a certain way for you to feel good, intentional reality creation is always going to feel hard. So that's really like something I noticed in myself a lot. And so kind of just to wrap this up for you, going back to my notes, right? Building a business you love doesn't mean doing less. It means only doing what is aligned. And it takes practice to learn what alignment is. I'll be fully honest with you. I have not figured all of this out, but I'm learning more and more and more every single day. And I constantly am asking myself this question: how does this feel? Why am I doing this? How does this feel? Why am I doing this? And if I'm ever doing it because I should, because, so-and-so expects it of me, because this is how other people do it, to me, that is an invitation for me to go inside and be like, what the fuck are you doing, Rye? Right? And really evaluate that. Like, what would it feel like if it were aligned? And sometimes the answer is no, right? Again, the rules are made up. There is no have to in business, in life, in relationships, in careers. Those are just other people's experiences. And you are welcome to create your own that aligns with you and your energy and your goal and what you want, right? The grind is 110% not necessary, right? The real work, guys, is asking, do I want to do this every single time you look at your day? Do I want to do this? Does this feel good? Do I want to do this? Does this feel good? Does this get me closer to my goal? Does this excite me? Is this something I can see myself doing day in and day out, right? But when you start examining all of your business and career decisions through this lens, you're going to start to notice how much how much you're doing that isn't actually moving the needle and is completely, in obligation. But then also it makes sense why your results aren't changing, right? Because you're out of alignment. We are continually doing things out of should and have to and obligation. You cannot possibly be an energetic match to what it is you want to create. It's impossible, right? It is literally like scientifically impossible for those two things, right? So one of the things that I want you to do this week is just a little bit of homework. Is I want you to pick one area this week to shift out of obligation and into desire, like just one area of your life. And it doesn't have to be your career. Obviously, we talk a lot about career and business and money because that's a big part of my life and my journey. And most of you are high achievers in this way, but maybe it is your health that you really want to examine. Maybe it is your relationship that you really want to examine. Maybe it are your finances you really want to examine. But what is one area of your life where you can really shift out of those shoulds and those have tos and that obligation and really into just alignment and desire? right? That's what I think would be a really great piece. So the reflection questions in this episode are really powerful. Challenging yourself in a meaningful way, I think is really, really important. And if you are listening live or listening to this, if you're listening to this like years later, that's so wild to think about. But I listen to people's podcasts who are old all of the time because I don't know why, I just like the OG stuff. But I am doing something really fun with my clients. I'm doing something really, really fun. There was a series of 3 masterclasses that I had kind of downloaded a couple of weeks ago and been playing around with, like, how do I use these? I initially thought they were part of my Uncensored Self-Discovery program, but right now I think they're going to wind up being a bundle of some kind together. So if you join any of my programs between now and July 3rd, you are going to get these 3 live masterclasses completely complimentary and 2 integration calls. So basically you're going to get 5 different opportunities to be live with me, 3 of them when I'm teaching, and then 2 of them really in, like, I call them integration calls. They're deepening, they're coaching calls, they're Q&A calls. They're really, really powerful ways to, like, anchor into the work and how do we actually embody this in our life. So this is something I'm doing for all of my existing clients. If you're a current active client, this is something that's being included for you at no additional charge. And then if you join any of my programs, doesn't matter which one, you are going to have the opportunity to do this live as well. So I want you to send me a DM if you're considering working together. When I bundle this together, when I bundle these 3 programs together with the integration calls, it's likely coming at a price point of $1,111. That's what came through this morning. So you're going to get that value totally free if you join any of my programs this week. Or I'm sorry, before June 3rd, June 4th, I think is when we kick off. So that's a really great fun value and bonus. You can feel free to DM me about that. Otherwise, I love hearing from you guys. Like I said, 2-way communication is so important. So never be afraid to hop into my DMs, ask a question. I would love, love, love to answer that question for you. If you're interested in working together, let's figure out which program makes the most sense. And really it's going to be about what your goals are. Like, that's how I'm going to make a recommendation for you on whichever program makes the most sense. It's going to be about, like, what area of your life do you really want to move the needle on, and what's going on. So we'll have a really great conversation about that. Otherwise, I love you guys. I'm so grateful that you're here, that you're listening, that you're watching, that you're part of this community, that you're part of this journey. And I'll see y'all soon. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.